Start recording. Are we live?
I don't know, man. I haven't done it this way in forever.
All right.
I
I see the live stream. We are live.
Okay, we're live.
Are you recording?
I believe so.
Hit record.
Oh.
All right.
Go ahead.
Welcome back to the biggest, most popular podcast in all of Central Florida, the Patriot Roundtable, episode 108. Our guest tonight, Florida House Rep out of District 32 and U.S. House of Representatives, Florida District 7 Republican congressional candidate, Mr. Anthony Sabatini. Go ahead and introduce yourself, brother.
Well, yeah, I appreciate you guys having me on, and it is a literal roundtable here, so that like that. I appreciate that honesty and advertising there. I'm a state rep in the Florida legislature. It's been a pretty interesting 4 years serving with Governor DeSantis and fighting the COVID insanity and psycho Fauci and wokeism, and now Disney's declared war on us. It's been a fun 4 years. I've had 5 of my bills signed into law, and really I spent a lot more of my time, to be quite honest with you, fighting with Republicans, trying to get Republicans to grow a backbone and move further to the right. We have the best governor in the country, but so many of our legislators are just softies and bad for the brand, really bad for the conservative, populist, America First Republican brand that we're trying to create. So I spent a lot of my time trying to move the Republican Party in a better direction, and that's kind of what I'm known for as a state legislator. And I'm, of course, now running for Congress to try to add to the informal America First wing of the party and make sure the Republican Party is really a party who's got a strong conception of protecting the middle class, stopping illegal immigration, protecting freedom, fighting wokeism, and just going back to our constitutional roots in society.
So you are arguably the champion of the Florida State Legislature and the favorite to win the District 7 seat. If not, you are known worldwide. I have some of my family from Egypt. Oh, you're in the state where Anthony Sabatini's at. So you're, you've been trying to get the constitutional carry passed. It's like, what, the 4th attempt now? It's to the point where Governor DeSantis is introducing, is calling for a special legislative session.
Yep.
What has the challenge been? Like, why is it constantly dying in committee hearings? And how can we move forward?
It's actually worse than that. Rhino Republicans don't even want strong conservative legislation to be debated. So what they actually do is block a lot of these bills from even being debated. They're not even heard in committee. So you'll file the bill, and then guess what? It just doesn't get heard. There's no vote. People always say to me, who's voting against it? There is no vote. The legislative leadership controls the agenda and doesn't allow the bill to get heard.
This is why they don't look bad for voting it down.
It protects them, protects their hide, right? So they get to say, well, I would have voted for it if it moved, but then they won't let it move. And they play on the ignorance of the public who doesn't understand how the legislative process works and the legalese. So for 3 years now, the Rhino Republicans, just like in Texas, have fought against constitutional carry. It took 13 years to pass that bill in Texas, so-called super conservative Texas. 13 years to pass permitless open carry in the state of Texas.
Wow.
This is our 3rd attempt. They killed it again, but now we have the governor's support. The governor has called a special session on congressional map making, but he's demanding that this issue also be addressed at the same time. And so, this isn't the first time that I've paired up with Governor DeSantis to move conservative legislation. When the rhinos in the state legislature, who were bought off by Chamber of Commerce and big corporate businesses, were fighting against my idea to ban private sector vaccine mandates and government vaccine mandates, they were running and hiding because they didn't want to piss off their corporate donors. The governor was the second Republican in the state behind me to say we need to get this done. But he's so popular that the rest of the rhinos just cave. The good thing about rhinos is they're weak and they cave. And if you push them hard enough, they will cave. So the legislature went with the flow, and we banned this. We became one of the first states in the country to ban insane private sector vaccine mandates. And the same thing is happening here with constitutional carry. We are putting pressure on them. We're leading with force and with a good argument that we should not have to pay the government money and beg for permission to carry a firearm for your own self-defense, and we're winning, and this is about to happen in the state of Florida in the next few weeks.
Amen. Well, I appreciate it, brother, and thank you so much for being so strong in your stance on this certain piece of legislation. Now, obviously, Florida became the talks of the entire country after we passed what the left is saying, the Don't Say Gay bill, but in reality, it's the anti-grooming bill. How was the talks in the Florida state legislature, like when we were bringing about that bill? Did it have a lot of opposition from rhinos? Because I understand people like Travis Hudson are trying to all of a sudden appeal to the left and introduce pro-gay bills. We want to protect gay students and such, and so there seems to be pushback from Republicans. Why are you messing with my...
Sorry.
So there seems to be opposition from Republicans on that anti-grooming bill. Is that correct?
Yes. No, that's true. But I don't know what state senators voted against. If I'm not mistaken, there was only one state senator. I think it was a different state senator that voted against it. In the state house, you have a lot of rhinos, too. And so 7 Republicans voted with the insane, sick, crazy, woke, America-hating left to vote against a bill that would have said simply this: you can't have transgender ideology and sexual orientation ideology inserted into the official curriculum of grades K through 3. Think about how modest of a bill, how simple of a bill that is. It's a bill that literally says in your official curriculum, you shouldn't be talking about transgender, sexuality, and sex and all this other stuff.
Yeah, it's not just transgender; it's just sex.
Sex. Yeah. Period. So those Republicans, that's how wimpy some of these Republicans are. But anyways, long story short, my only issue with the bill is it didn't go far enough. It didn't go far enough. Yeah. Should have been K through 12. In fact, the whole country thought it was K through 12. Now they're looking at it and they're going, what the hell are you guys doing? Should have been a much stronger bill. What's up with this K through 3 stuff? Now, the truth of the matter is, it's better than nothing. I voted for the bill because it gets us moving in the right direction. But the truth of the matter is they need to expand it to 12th grade next year.
Why didn't they?
Oh, weak Republicans in the legislature. The governor definitely would have signed a K through 12 bill.
Is that what he wanted?
Oh, my God, yeah. You have spineless Republican leadership. The Speaker of the House, a guy named Chris Sprouse, Jeb Bush's best friend, total pushover, milquetoast, just kind of a total dud. And then the very corrupt, very, very milquetoast, very middle of the road, soft Senate President Wilton Simpson, Simpson, I call him, simping for the left. He put 2 Democrats in charge of committees in a so-called Republican state. So crazy, weak people in the legislature trying to kill bills, and killed a lot of DeSantis' best bill. DeSantis wants E-Verify, my bill. They killed that. He wants constitutional carry. They killed that. He wanted a $1 billion gasoline tax holiday. They cut it down by 80%. They did $200 million instead. Why? So they could spend that money on lobbyist influenced projects. So there's a lot of really bad actors in the legislature who water down a lot of our good conservative reforms, and it happens a lot. And that's why I'm always preaching to people about primaries. We need to be primarying and removing the trash out of the Republican Party. Find these weak, milquetoast, dud Republican politicians who are bad for a brand and just crush them and get some real fighters like DeSantis.
The hard part is informing the public on who you need to get rid of. You know what I mean? That's not
everything.
everybody pays
Education's
attention.
Everything. Education's everything, and people have let's be completely frank, especially at the state level. I mean, they might know somewhat about what's going on at the federal level of politics, but they're generally not paying attention to the state level politics. And so one of the things I'm doing is going out and trying to educate people and realize, get them to realize the way the process works, and you can tell the bad folks from the good folks. Now, let me tell you, the easy hint, the easy sort of rubric to use to tell the good guys from the bad guys is their rhetoric. It's very obvious. How are they messaging? What are they talking about? If you have to drag down and try to find these congressmen's positions on things and they're not talking about it, and you have to kind of drag them down and pin them down and get them to commit to a position, I'm telling you right now, they're working against you. Right. You Google me, you'll find every one of my positions. As soon as a thought comes into my head on a bill, it's going to be out there. You're going to know where I am. Taxes, pro-life legislation, guns, whatever it is, you'll know where I stand. I'm filing legislation, I'm messaging on, I'm doing rallies, etc. These Republicans that are just quiet and hiding in the shadows and you don't know where they are, not always, but in most cases, that is a Republican that is a weak moderate who's working against you. They just don't want you to know, and so they're trying to stay out of the limelight.
Is it because these guys are trying to play both sides, trying to get votes
That's what it is.
from both sides? Yeah.
That's what it is. Well, both sides, the votes, but also the donors. Yeah. They are locked into a network of lobbyists and donors who are decidedly less conservative than the average working American, and so they're trying to appeal to them by not embracing populist rhetoric, not embracing conservative rhetoric, and it's by design. It's by design. That's what they do. I mean, look at COVID. I was the only elected official in the state of Florida, one of the few in the country, to speak out against lockdowns from day one, school closures from day one, curfews from day one, mask mandates, vaccine mandates, all of it. It was months and months before anybody else joined me. Of course, the only other person that was public about it was DeSantis, but the legislature was MIA, nowhere to be found, and I'm so afraid of that issue.
Yeah, people forget, man. Here in Florida, we were locked down for I don't know how many months, but it was a while.
2 months.
2 months?
Yep, just 2 months.
So like 6 months.
Well, in the Tri-County area, Palm Beach, Broward, and Miami-Dade, they were locked down for months. The bars were closed through July. Even when Shelley Luther, famous hair salon owner that was arrested in Dallas for opening her hair salon, was arrested in Dallas, our barbershops were closed several more weeks. So, I was totally against all of that from day one. And, the governor, to his merit, said, I should never have done that. It was a mistake. We learned a lot more afterwards. But the legislatures never apologized. They thought that to this day what they did was reasonable and right. They just got played by the left. These fake, moderate Republicans, these fake conservative Republicans or whatever, they just get played by the left. They get steamrolled every time because they're weak.
Real quick, can you remind people where they can check out your
Facebook, what's your
or how they donate
social
to you?
media, your website? How can they support your campaign and such?
Yeah, so it's SabatiniForCongress.com is the website, and of course I'm on every social media platform from Getter and Gab to Twitter and Instagram and Facebook and everything in between. And they could always just call me or text me 352-455-2928. I put my cell phone on everything I put out.
Wow.
Because I've done that forever. When I was a commissioner in the nearby town of Eustis, when I was a state rep this last 4 years, and when I'm in Congress, my cell phone will go on every single piece of literature that goes out, and it still does. And people think I'm crazy for that, but guess what? I only get a crazy call once in a while. Most of the time, it's reasonable stuff, and I might have to pass them off to my legislative staff, but it's not abuse, believe it or not. So.
I would
Well,
imagine.
it's like how many lefties watch this? Are watching this right now?
We have a few trolls.
With a
No,
couple,
if you
but
look
yeah,
at
for
our,
the most part, no. So you said you're on all the social media, but you're not on YouTube.
So yeah, there's a funny story with that. I had a pretty good growing YouTube audience following until last week. I was on, and even today I was on War Room with Steve Bannon.
Oh, this happened recently.
Yeah, last week. So I was on War Room. I've been on War Room probably 4 or 5 times. I was on twice, and then a third time yesterday, and then a fourth time today. Just in the last 2 weeks, I was on 4 times. When I was getting her for my third time yesterday to be on, I had posted on YouTube the interview between me and Steve Bannon. And because apparently he's banned, they banned me. So it wasn't about the content, it was just the person, which is really dystopian.
Deleted your whole channel.
Creepy. They deleted the entire channel. It's gone. And so the video on my donation link, if you ever donated me, plays as my campaign ad. Well, it just disappeared. And I said, why is that? And it was connected to YouTube. Now we have it connected to Vimeo and Rumble, and we're good. But, they took down the YouTube channel just to censor us. We're living in a very dystopian time.
Yeah, so right now, normally I go, we post this live on Facebook, but I'm in Facebook jokes. They didn't like my Biden video that I posted.
Yeah.
Which there was no lies in it. Right? So you're censored on YouTube. I'm censored on Facebook right now, and I'm constantly battling this, man. It never ends. So let's just say you get elected to Congress. What are you going to do about big tech?
There's 2 or 3 things we can do that are very easy. The big tech so-called problem is very easy. Very easy. They need to be broken up and destroyed. Big tech is conglomerates. They're monopolies. They need to be broken into pieces. They're anti-competitive practices. They cannibalize other industries. They interfere in our elections, and they're just despicable, horrible, evil people. So we need to crush big tech and break it up, and we can do that by amending our antitrust laws. Another thing we can do to stop the censorship in the meantime is, and this is a must-do thing, is classify them legally as what they call common carriers. So they're regulated like telecommunications companies. Therein they cannot discriminate you based on your viewpoint. A cell phone company, telecom company can't just say, well, we're not going to let Republicans get a phone line or whatever. They're regulated differently than other companies.
Right.
And so that's the classification they need and they don't presently have. So that's a key thing we need to do. Common carrier reform, Section 230 reform, repealed the special civil liability privileges they presently have until they can prove that they do not engage in any way, shape, or form in viewpoint discrimination.
Which
so
they do 100%.
Yeah, exactly. So they need to be broken up into smaller pieces just off the get-go in terms of their data collection, their interface, et cetera. We also need Section 230 reform, and then finally we need common carrier legislation. That's 3 things we can do to fix the issue very simply.
Yeah, I'm one of those one-issue voters. Whoever promises to bust up big tech into a billion pieces has got my vote.
Because that's the only way we can practice our free speech.
But I will tell you, you got to get more than just words. I'm lucky to be in a race where, it's just very, very clear, at least in the primary. Most people don't even know I'm in a primary, but I am in a primary. And there's people saying, I promised to do this, I promised to do that. It's better to have a record. So like in the state legislature, I filed all those bills. I filed common carrier legislation. I filed constitutional carry. I have a proven record on all these issues. And the problem is a lot of these Republicans who promise everything and do nothing. And the reason they do nothing, you're like, but it's not that hard to file a bill or co-sponsor things or vote a certain way. The pressure from the Republican establishment, the corrupt Republican establishment that will hail down on members of the Republican caucus right when they get elected, is very heavy for some, and so they will crumble, and they will lie and say they're going to do all these things, and they'll just end up becoming like robots in the machine.
So
right?
they go in with good intentions,
yes,
and then they're just corrupted kind of.
And
right
they sell
away.
out. The single most important thing you should be looking for in any Republican primary or any election is who has the courage to stand up to anybody and everybody, the party, the lobbyists, etc. Most people just don't have it. Let's be completely frank. They don't have it. Most Republicans are total cowards. They're totally spineless, and they just fold like a cheap Chinese suit on day one.
That's a great expression. Also, you have any more questions, Jeff?
What do you think about men swimming with women in college sports?
Yeah,
Did you
so
hear that? And the new thing now is in Europe they got a male bicycler that identifies as a female and is going to be or is racing competitively with women. So
that's right.
It's over there too.
So, Florida was one of the first states in the country to ban transgender individuals from unfairly competing against women in women's sports. I filed the original legislation to do that even before it was a big popular topic. It was a two-part bill. One banned transgender infiltration of girls' sports, and the other part banned transgender surgeries on children in the state of Florida. You should be 18 before you make that kind of decision. Once you hit 18, that's your business, but should not be imposed on children. And puberty blockers are a massive problem now we have. The legislature thought it was too controversial and killed it and just did the sports part, and that's great, but the sports part has bipartisan support, even though the woke left screams about it. Democrats actually do. The working Democrats, the voting Democrats actually don't have an issue with it. It's just the insane party leadership. But we need to go the next step and really ban these insane transgender surgeries and puberty blockers on children because it's wrong. And once again, the rhinos are killing this bill because it's more controversial in their eyes.
They don't want to look the bad guys or something?
Yeah,
I think you're looking like the good guys if you're against it.
They don't want to look like anything. They're
so
just
what do you
afraid.
think transgenders should compete with other transgenders?
Well, here's the thing about that specific issue. They should basically not have any unfair advantage. If they're, I don't care what gender you think you are. If you have an unfair advantage based on your musculo, skeletal system, your body is built in a way where you have an unfair advantage. That's what I'm against.
So essentially,
I'm just for fairness.
Lee Thomas, she should be swimming with the guys.
Yeah, of course.
He should be swimming with the guys.
Right. So this previous legislative session, you introduced a plethora of important bills, like the E-Verify, like banning the transgender surgeries for children, constitutional carry, and they were all struck down. But we ended up getting another important piece of legislation passed. We made strawberry Florida's official cake.
I voted against it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
chocolate, damn it.
People don't. They say, oh well, politics is swampy and corrupt, but they don't really know what that means. I give you a instantiation of what that means. What it means is like nonsense legislation will fly through the legislature if there's enough money and influence behind it, but good, popular, well-meaning conservative legislation will die without a hearing because there's not enough money involved. So like a ban like help these children that are have puberty blockers shoved down their throats at young ages didn't even get a hearing. But a bill to make strawberry shortcake, a dessert that I found maybe on one restaurant menu in 20 years in the state of Florida that nobody cares about. It's a fine dessert, sure, but it's not it's not part of the Florida identity, just became the official dessert of the state of Florida. And you ask, why is that? Why is it that this bill got all these hearings moved through and now it's going to end up becoming a state law versus a bill about transgender surgeries? And the truth is it's because lobbyists were pushing for it and they were close with the legislative leadership and they happened to sell strawberries or whatever and they thought it would make them a little bit more money to mess with their official symbols. It's that corrupt.
If you're a lawmaker too and you can pass any bill, it just looks good. Look how many bills I passed. If you can pass 2 or 3 stupid things that don't matter, you can still say you passed 3 bills, right? It's like a trophy.
Really?
Yeah, the whole passing of bills thing is a complete joke. People will say, I passed 20 bills, so passed 0. Truth of the matter is most of these bills are either totally innocuous, silly, and stupid, or actually legitimately bad. I have passed 5 bills in my time in the legislature. There's been years I've passed some. There's been years I've passed none. The truth of the matter is none of it matters. What matters is what is the fight you're putting up for conservative values. If you're passing 0 bills, but you're holding the Republican Party accountable and you're moving the conversation the right way, you're a hero. If you're passing 50, but you're just another cog in the system and enabling the corruption, enabling the silliness and the backstabbing of conservative populist voters around the country, around the state, guess what? You're the problem. Who cares what quantity of legislation, new laws you've created? It's so silly, but people make that argument. I laugh out loud when I hear it.
I see. So actually, your 6th bill is about to get passed. That's the constitutional carry. When does the legislature, the Florida State Legislature, meet up for that special session?
3 weeks. It'll be the day after Easter Monday, so Tuesday to Friday. And by the way, let me tell you about the bill. So people will say, well, this person's bill passed, but not this person. The bills are like, imagine the members as like carrier pigeons, right? There's a piece of legislation the legislature passed. The person that carries it, usually they're selected because they're very subservient, like almost like dog-like servants to the legislative leadership. So that person's been given that bill. So my bill, because they're mad that I've criticized a fellow Republican for being a rhino, they'll take that bill, a duplicate copy of it, give it to another member. That person will carry it across the finish line, and that person gets to say, hey, I passed the bill. Truth is, if you have no ego, it doesn't matter. I don't care who passes the bill, if it's me, you, whoever. All that matters is the legislation passes. But you won't hear that from some of these Republicans. They'll say, oh, I passed it single-handedly, this and that. Usually the metaphor to use is carrier pigeons. They're people who, this person's going to do what we say, you carry this legislation, and then we'll pass out the House floor, then you get to go back to your district and say you pass. It's kind of like a pageantry.
So real quick, what can the great people of Florida do to put pressure on these rhinos that are constantly blocking your constitutional carry bill to possibly get it passed this time?
I think I don't want to be too over the top here, but I really think if you have a Republican legislator and they're not committing to certain really important concepts like e-verify, constitutional carry, basic tax, tax cuts, voting against a budget that goes up every year. We just increased the budget by 11% this year. Of course, I voted against it, but if you don't have these like just very general principles, you need to primary that Republican. I'm sorry, but that's just the way it is. If you're growing government, you're not working to go on offense for the Constitution, for liberty, for the America First agenda, fighting for Americanism, parents' rights, etc., like real offense, not like this incremental stuff, but really fighting and really moving the needle, you need to primary that Republican by recruiting somebody and voting against them. It's just the way it is.
So, so everybody's going to have to stamp their name on this constitutional carry this time. Then there's no avoiding.
Well, we don't know what's going to happen yet. Listen, the governor said, I'm calling a special session. Who knows if the rhino Speaker of the House, who's killed it 3 years in a row, says, we're just not going to take that bill up.
He can still do it.
But, it all comes down to the members. The members at any time could force anything over the leadership. They can say, we're going to remove you as Speaker, but you have just these cowardly people that couldn't imagine doing something that bold. And so,
So is Chris Sprouse up for re-election again?
No, he's term limited, but he's going to be running for higher office sometime in the near future, and people need to remember this name. This is the guy that killed a ban on transgender surgeries. He killed my bill to do mandatory audits in every election, which I think is a common sense thing. Double check everything. Why not? E-verify, a bill to stop illegal immigration, a bill to keep the Capitol Police out of Florida. All of the most important conservative reforms that I think all Republicans agree is good legislation. This guy is totally opposed to.
So he's a rhino, and he's been in there so long he's terming out.
Yeah, he's been there 8 years.
And now he's going to move up the ladder because he's
going
been
to
such a good rhino.
He and many other legislative leaders, after they backstab voters, they usually take a gap year, wait, and then they collect lobbyist checks and try to run for another higher office and hope that you forget. And people do forget. But we got to keep that pressure on them.
So Chris Sprouse is looking to possibly run for federal office or something along those lines.
It'll be something. Attorney General. It could be anything.
Remember the name Chris Sprouse.
Yeah.
He should run as a Democrat. People will love him. Oh, he killed a bill to
If
stop
he
transgender.
lived in an area that had more Democrat voters and had a Democrat advantage, he would register as a Democrat with.
He's trying to play both sides.
That's what they do.
Yeah.
There's a reason why almost no Democrats voted against the budget. There's no reason why not one Democrat has ever criticized him as Speaker of the House. Think about that. So not one Democrat criticizes anything you do or say. That's pretty wild. It shows you that he's really a middle of the road kind of keep the left happy, appease the left kind of guy.
Yep.
So what do you think about this new Supreme Court justice pick?
I think she's not stable. I think she's got serious deficiencies in terms of her character. I think she's a warped person that has a special place in her heart for criminals and pedophiles and drug addicts, drug dealers rather. And so I think this is a person that can't be trusted in any level judge. I'm just shocked she was ever appointed judge anywhere. Yeah. Can you believe that she's even making rulings right now from the bench? It's crazy. She's very, very, very deeply steeped into anti-white racism, critical race theory. She has a really racist, racialized view of the world.
And she's married to a white guy.
Yeah, she
right. A lot of these politics that push the race baiting stuff, like AOC dating a white guy, isn't Ilhan Omar dating a white dude?
I don't know anything about that. All I know is the policies are really sick and weird and perverted and anti-American, and there's just a lot of it.
What do you think about AOC coming to vacation in the great state of Florida after she completely destroyed, our reputation? She constantly talks about how we're a psycho state, yet she comes down to Miami for her vacation. What do you think about that?
Well, I mean, the hypocrisy on the left is totally normal. Of course, they don't see it their way. Remember, they see themselves as the elite. They, make rules for everybody but us. We're the sacred leaders, the leftist leaders that need to run this world. You, the serfs, need to listen to us. So if she wants to go down to Florida, it's for a noble and good cause, but nobody else should be allowed to do that. If she wants to take her mask off and go party, that's fine. Nancy Pelosi, hairdresser, all the same thing. These are really sick people who don't believe in the fundamental ideas of the American project, which is equality under the law. It's probably the most fundamental idea in our country, in our country's history, and it's the one that's under attack the most, usually through CRT, critical race theory and stuff. But equality under the law, treating everybody equally, giving everybody a chance, an opportunity, but not ensuring any kind of outcome, and just ensuring, people follow the law and are treated equally. They hate this idea. And they're living examples of their noncompliance and just total disregard of it.
Are you looking forward to debating the highly intellectual Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez once you get to Congress?
Yeah, I don't know. It's funny. A lot of the Republicans say that, you got to engage with the left. I'm more focused on right now rolling back the communism within the Republican Party. I mean, we could sit here and scream about Biden and Pelosi. We all know that they're insane and should never be trusted with power. But the truth of the matter is we have a lot of those people in our ranks. I really want to clean house in the Republican Party, make sure we are a strong conservative brand that believes in the right thing, and also deal with the left. But the truth of the matter is it just shocks me that Republicans will sit here and obsess over the left while ignoring so many of the rhinos and weaklings and spineless people in our own party. It's like, let's get our own house in order, and also try to beat the left. I just don't understand why we ignore so much of it in our party. I guess I have a special insight into it because I've been in politics 6 years, and I'm watching every single day so many Republicans fail to lead on so many important issues. I mean, a great example of this is all the governors, right? DeSantis is a great governor. What are these other Republican governors doing? It's like, so they're, oh my God, can you believe what Biden's doing? Yeah, but why is our governor, let's say you live in Nebraska, caving on these 10, 20, 50, 30, 40 issues and not doing anything and just playing defense? I don't get it. And it's like, I try to keep our focus on the things we can control in the meantime before we get power back.
Yes, sir. So you've been taking action in protecting, the job in the job market in Florida from illegal immigrants with your E-Verify bill. I'm sure, so once you get to Congress, you're going to be obviously taking that action at a federal level when it comes to protecting our border. And so what sort of things do you have in mind, like pieces of legislation you look forward to introducing once you get to Congress in regards of illegal immigration and such?
Well, first thing, obviously, is build the wall. We need to expedite that. I would shut down any budget that doesn't include a provision to finish the wall in the fastest way possible. We need to deport illegal immigrants. We need to make sure that we cut back on legal immigration. We need a 10-year immigration moratorium. We've had so much illegal immigration. We cannot afford to go at the rates we're going at now, so shut it down in the meantime. Deportations, shut down any kind of incentives, push E-Verify at the state level, make sure that people are being vetted. If they're illegal immigrants and they can't work here, they're actually going to self-deport. They're going to leave because the reason they're coming is for economic, privilege and mobility. And guess what? We need to ensure we're helping the American working class by clamping down on illegal and abusive legal immigration laws. So those are some of the things we need to do right now.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much that you're pro the legal immigration moratorium. That's something that I've been speaking out about. And also Laura Loomer is also on that same train. She was our guest a couple episodes ago. So best of luck once you guys get to Congress and getting that stuff passed. Real quick, announce, because you said you got to go in a little bit, announce your platforms. Where can they support your campaign? Where can they donate and such one more time?
Sure. I'm an America First Republican. That means stopping the systematic destruction of the middle class, destroying the rhinos, taking our country back, impeaching Joe Biden. We're making sure that Fauci's investigated and can never hold office or a position of power in the federal government again. Immigration moratorium, tax cuts for the middle class, and a host of other things. Shut down the Department of Education and all ban critical race theory and amend our Civil Rights Act to ban it so that way you can sue if somebody tries to push it on you in the workplace. There's a lot of policies I stand for, but they all come back down to helping our middle class and keeping our country strong by focusing on America first and Americanism. I'm Anthony Sabatini. I'm a state representative in Florida fighting the radical left and rhinos in our own party every single day, have the most conservative voting record in the history of the state of Florida, 100% rating from the American Conservative Union, the highest of anybody in the state, and endorsed by the National Association for Gun Rights, the #1 most pro-Second Amendment conservative gun organization in the United States. Far, far better, more effective than the National Rifle Association. So check me out on SabatiniForCongress.com and on every social media website at Anthony Sabatini, Sabatini.
Awesome. One quick question. Did Will Smith really slap the shit out of Chris Rock?
I think so. Yeah, I think
you think that's real?
Yeah, no, I think he's had definitely a mental breakdown. He's cuckolded and all the rest of it. It's a very, very scary, creepy place. I have friends who've worked in Hollywood, and it is a pretty disturbing place. There's a lot of mental health issues, a lot of people who are just living in a false reality and, a godless world. And so when people do crazy stuff like that, it's not always staged. A lot of times it's people just cracking and breaking down because they live in a really dark place.
You think they should strip that Oscar from him?
No, mind you, August, a singer slept with his wife multiple times, and his wife has been sleeping around, but he didn't do anything about that. He just lost his mind when some dude made a joke about her. All right, I'm sorry to cut you off.
I don't care about the statues. I don't care about Hollywood at all. I care about that phenomenon because there are a lot of Americans who look to Hollywood and say, well, Hollywood must reflect American culture in some way, that what happens there in some way is related to American life, so it's normalized violence. And the biggest takeaway of the Will Smith thing is that the idea, sort of unconsciously, that's, well, if you're really passionate about something, it's okay to commit an act of violence as long as you did it out of the goodness of your heart. And this is, of course, what the left preaches. It's okay to burn a building down, destroy the country, do whatever you want, as long as you feel that you're doing it for the right reasons.
Yeah, I was shocked by all the people that came out and supported Will Smith and thought that it was all right.
That's why. That's the idea that is sort of inherent in the act, is that, if you're doing it out of passion and love and this and that, it's okay to commit violence. And so this breakdown of the rule of law is probably, honestly, top 2 or 3 most important dangerous trend in American society today, and you're seeing it everywhere from Hollywood and in the political sphere and everywhere.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I understand your time is tight, brother. So thank you for joining us on episode 108 of the Patriot Roundtable. Anthony Sabatini for Congress, running for U.S. House of Representatives, Florida's 7th District. God bless America.
God bless.
God bless, guys.
All right.
Well, let me roll. You guys are the best. Appreciate it. That was great.
Appreciate it, brother.
Yeah.
Looking forward to having you
short
again one
interviews
day.
because it keeps